Order. I call the member for Capricornia.
Mr Deputy Speaker, nobody likes to hear about someone losing their job. Nobody likes getting the type of news from their bosses. The opposition has been barking loudly about job losses in Victoria, but they need to look at the role they have directly played in obstructing job growth in other parts of the country. Mr Deputy Speaker, there is another and more important part of this country, and it's called Queensland. The issue of job losses in my seat of Capricornia is a serious one too, but the opposition doesn't talk about Queensland, Mr Deputy Speaker, because their plan for job creation was to introduce the carbon tax and the mining tax. What a terrific plan! Do you want to know what it has done for job creation? While everyone harps on about job losses in the car sector, mining companies report that in Queensland alone, their industry has lost 11,000 mining-related jobs in the past year or more. This government only took up office 5 months ago. Do the maths. The mining sector was bleeding under Labor's reckless carbon tax for some time. One company told me it would pay $46 million as a direct result of the carbon tax, and potentially millions more in indirect costs associated with the tax. This is a tax that competitors overseas do not face. The carbon tax is the equivalent of loading up a pack horse with 10 tonnes of bricks. It inhibits the potential for resource companies to use that money to invest in growth that might lead to more jobs. And for some reason, the Labor Party wants to keep that tax in place. The live cattle trade. Here's another example of a Labor plan that has destroyed job growth in the bush. One night, as we all slept, the Labor Party shut down Australia's cattle export trade. There was no warning. Cattle producers lost their marketplace, farm workers their jobs, livestock truck drivers lost their jobs, cattle buyers lost their jobs, people on the shipping terminals lost their jobs, the blokes who deliver the cattle drenched lost their jobs. Our cattle producers in Capricornia are still paying for that plan. Cattle that could no longer be shipped overseas were flooded onto the domestic market, causing beef prices to plummet. If the cattle industry was left to prosper, people might still have those types of jobs. Then we've got Tees Meatworks. This is our local abattoir, Tees Australia. This meat processor is among Rockhampton's biggest employers, providing over 1,000 jobs. They too pay carbon tax. In fact, it costs the local abattoir nearly $1.8 million in direct and indirect costs associated with this reckless tax. As their customers do not pay for the carbon tax, this money effectively comes out of the pockets of Australian cattle producers via reduced prices that the meat processor can pay for cattle. How many more jobs could be created if there was no carbon tax? Deputy Speaker, as Toyota drivers might say, oh what a feeling. Oh what a feeling of shame that is. A feeling of shame that Labor is destroying opportunities for jobs growth through its carbon tax. The best thing our government can do for the workers in Australia is to build a stronger, more prosperous economy. That is why we are committed to scrapping Labor's carbon tax.